Biden's withdrawal quickly led to the Taliban taking over Afghanistan and in the process seizing billions of dollars of military equipment, U.S. military equipment, paid for by U.S. taxpayers. Joining me right now is Congressman Brian Mast, who is a decorated veteran of the U.S. Army. While working as a bomb disposal expert in Afghanistan, he suffered catastrophic injuries, which included the loss of both of his legs. Congressman, thank you so much for your service and your sacrifice to this great country.
Thank you, Maria.
Before we get into the impact of that botched withdrawal, I want to get your take on what you just heard from Senator Marsha Blackburn. There is frustration across the country that the Republicans are not doing enough to stop this agenda and stop these bad outcomes. What would you do?
Yeah, me personally, number one tool we have at our disposal as legislators is what goes on with appropriations or funding. If we don't like a Department of Homeland Security Ministry of Truth, then we don't fund it. If we don't like a Department of Justice and an FBI that's raiding President Trump's home, then we don't fund it. If we don't like an IRS with 87,000 new IRS auditors to go out there and come after Americans, then we don't fund it. And that has to be the commitment moving into the majority in November.
Well, I mean, why aren't your colleagues doing that? Instead, they're going along with Democrats to sign into law all of this trillions and trillions of new spending. The CHIPS Act, the Infrastructure Act, the $1.9 trillion COVID relief package.
Yeah, it's beyond me why we would agree to any of those fundings. They're not the direction for we the people. And if we're not representing we the people, then we shouldn't be doing it.
Let me ask you about the people and the impact of that botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. You were with me right after the withdrawal, and you predicted some of the things that actually, in fact, have taken place, like China getting stronger. We, of course, saw 13 service members killed in the attack during the evacuations of Kabul. How would you say the withdrawal impacted America 1 year later?
So let's ask this question. Did we win any hearts or minds, that term, any hearts or minds by leaving Afghanistan in the way that we did? Absolutely not. We see that a continuation of Biden's policies on every foreign affairs front, which is this. No commitment to red lines. There was no red lines in Afghanistan, no red lines with the Taliban with our withdrawing, no red lines on our southern border, no red lines with China and Taiwan, no red lines with Iran. This is what the world looks like under Joe Biden and that continuation of Afghanistan. It's on fire because who is supposed to be the leader of the world has no red lines. And that was demonstrated in Afghanistan as well.
Well, the Department of Defense is estimating that $7.1 billion of military equipment was left on the ground when we left Afghanistan. The Taliban obviously seized billions of dollars in military equipment. We actually made the enemy stronger by leaving all of that equipment. How is that possible?
It's idiotic for any American, any taxpayer, any person with a lick of common sense. I'll tell you, as a soldier, right? I went to Afghanistan because I wanted to destroy the enemy that attacked my country, Taliban and Al-Qaeda. And we worked on doing that very, very effectively. We had a plan with every operation. We had a commitment to be as violent as humanly possible to destroy our enemy. And we had a willingness to adjust fire on the ground based upon how the enemy reacted. Joe Biden went into the largest military operation in the history of the war, the withdrawal, with no plan.
Unbelievable. Congressman, stay right there. I want to get your take on the impact on China and what this administration is doing now. We'll be right back with Congressman Brian Mast. Stay with us. I'm back with Congressman Brian Mast, who is a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, what about the impact on China? We know that China has supported Russia in its moves on Ukraine, and China is now praising the Taliban, saying that they're providing better security to Afghanistan while slamming Biden's botched withdrawal. When you were with me a year ago, you were predicting that the CCP would try to overtake the Bagram Air Force Base that we abandoned. Your thoughts on the China impact?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything China would like more than to hoist their flag over what used to be our embassy. It's just an embarrassment for us. But to answer Colonel North's comments on there, why are we seeing all these problems? Because Biden does not believe in a peace through strength policy, and he doesn't believe in strengthening America and in between the Atlantic and the Pacific, overseas with Iran, with North Korea, with China, with these axis of evils that are being created. He doesn't believe in standing up to them. And you see them pushing the envelope further and further and further wherever it is that they can, because they know Biden will not stand up. He won't have a red line in the Ukraine in terms of what they threaten with nuclear weapons, how many civilians they kill, the brutal ways that they kill civilians. There is no response from him, and the world sees this.
Well, I mean, is it because he's compromised, because of all of the tens of millions of dollars that he and his family have taken in from Chinese companies that are linked to the CCP? I mean, let's face it. What is the U.S.'s China policy? All we know so far is that the Senate and Ron Johnson and Chuck Grassley have exposed millions of dollars that have been taken in by the Biden family. Peter Schweitzer on this program says it was at least $31 million. He's canceled the China initiative. He has failed to demand any investigation on COVID-19 from Xi Jinping, failed to bring up the fentanyl trafficking. So is it because he's compromised?
I think that's certainly a possibility worth analysis. For me, the answer is more simple than that. He likes to wear the title Commander-in-Chief. Unfortunately, I liken him to Coward-in-Chief. He does not have the guts to be strong in the face of anything, not even in the face of our own domestic border with Mexico. He doesn't have the strength to be strong, and that continues everywhere else. So I think it just, personally for me, I think it stems down to a cowardice.
You know, this influence peddling that we talk about so much has so much impact on America. And we're actually feeling the impact of that right now when we see the CCP march forward and get stronger with plans to overtake the United States as the #1 superpower. And then there's Iran. There are threats to kill Mike Pompeo, to kill John Bolton, 2 officials of the Trump administration. And yet, even with these fatwas on their back from Iran, this administration is still negotiating indirectly with the Iranians to get back into the Iran nuclear deal. Are you expecting that to materialize soon?
I expect the administration to work on making that materialize. They've been working on it since before President Biden was even sworn into office. I sit on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I had to listen to Democrats on that committee before he was sworn in talk about the #1 thing they had to do was get back into the Iran nuclear deal. Again, it's an idiotic policy for the United States of America, and we're falling into that. We've already fell into, but we're continuing to fall into it deeper. The same trap that Taiwan faces, where you can't allow your biggest adversary to be one of your largest trading partners. That's a problem we have. That's a problem Taiwan has. And that's a problem that the administration is now looking to create additionally with Iran. Make them a trading partner. Allow them access to the world stage. Allow them to have more resources because they're selling their oil and other things on the world stage to go out there and do what? Conduct terrorism in Syria or their proxies in Yemen or other places. It makes no sense for American strength and American foreign policy.
Well, and again, in terms of dealing with these adversaries, you would think that they would say we're not even having discussions until you take these fatwas off the backs of former Trump officials like the former Secretary of State. But no comment about that, even though we know that Iran has said, the head of Iran, that they want these 2 dead. China is buying farmland near military sites. Is there anything you can do to stop the CCP from acquiring more and more property in America?
Yes, this is something that is, of chief concern to me, not just in America, farmland in America. You're bringing up something important, whether it's ports in the Bahamas or throughout Central America, you name it. The list goes on and on, where China is moving closer and closer to us in the midst of developing a transoceanic military, their carrier battle groups. What is the specific purpose of those? It's to move a military across an ocean. They're buying up the ports where they can dock those vessels directly on our borders. That is a bigger threat than what was the Cuban Missile Crisis. But again, to you and I, this makes sense. To the Biden administration, it's like we're speaking Chinese.
Why? Why do you think that is?
Again, I don't mean to say the same thing over and over, but for me, it goes back to that point. There's a cowardice here out of the person that is supposed to be our commander-in-chief that the world has never seen before from what is the country that is supposed to be the world leader.
Okay, Congressman, thank you for your service. Thank you for all you've done for America. And thanks for being here this morning. Brian Mast joining us this morning.